Life Audio.
Hey there, Heather Creekmore here. Thanks for listening to the Compared To podcast today. I promised you a new series on the religion of dieting, and we're going to get to that. But I thought it might be helpful first for you to hear another story of a real woman whose life has been transformed as she's walked through really sorting out her body image and food issues with God at the center of that sorting process. Her name is Tara, and she's been, let's say, processing and sorting and working and praying and learning and all the things for almost 5 years now. In fact, she's done so much of it that she's joined us and is now one of the coaches on our team. And if you've been part of the 40-day journey, you've met her in the 40-day journey. But I thought today it might be helpful to share Tara's story, because in Tara's story, you're going to hear that same theme I mentioned, that religion of dieting. She thought by handling food the way she was handling food, she was actually doing it the biblical way. She was trying to be a good Christian through restricting food. I think this might be encouraging or informative to you. We're going to dig into this topic more over the next couple of weeks. But for today, here's Tara's story. I'm glad you're here for it. Tara, thanks for being on the Compared to Who show today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Such a blessing to be with you.
So, Tara is here to share her journey. And so let's go back to the beginning. Your journey started, what would you say, last January?
January 10th or something like that.
Okay. What did that look like?
Oh, goodness. So it's interesting because I feel like that was the beginning of my journey. But now that we're in November and I'm kind of going through it, I look back and I'm like, oh man, God had been preparing me for this way before that day. But for me, that date was like I had gone in to do my morning YouVersion Bible app, which was something that I had been doing daily with God for a while now. As I get up early before the kids when the house is quiet, and I'd go to my YouVersion Holy Bible app, and I would do like a guided prayer. I would do plans and read the devotionals, and then do the scriptures and that kind of thing to try to get my day started, because I was really, had been struggling in many areas. And on that particular day, I remember going in and just looking per usual at another Bible plan I was looking for to help me with my food. How can I eat biblically to lose weight, to fast? What should I be eating? How can I make this work, God? How do I honor you? And I was at that place where I was like, I had done every Bible plan that they had on YouVersion that came up with food. I had tried every fast. I mean, I'm kind of backtracking here, but basically, in that moment, your Compared to Who Bible plan came up, and there was the pair on with the little measuring tape. And of course, I'm like, well, there it is. I'm gonna get my little waist skinny again. And it was so interesting. And I clicked on it and I started reading the devotional. And I will never forget, like, I don't even remember what the words were at that time. I just remember being gripped, like the Holy Spirit just gripped me in that moment. And there was this pause, like, this is totally different. This is nothing that I expected. And it was like, oh Lord, she's speaking my heart, my mind, my thoughts, everything. And I think I read like the entire devotional in that one sitting. And I went back and I kept doing it day after day. And I feel like it was just, there was something so desperate in me at that point, and your words gripped me so much. And from that, it was just like, thus started my journey.
Yeah. So let's go back even before that then.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with your food and your body? Like, what did that look like? And, go back as far as you want to in terms of your story.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, it's funny because when I thought about January, I thought like, oh yeah, my story with this has only been, a couple of years in my mind. But when I, being in this process, in this journey with you since then, I've realized how far back it really goes. And so January was really like that epitome of like hitting a wall and just being like, I need help. and not even realizing it. So before that, really going back, I mean, gosh, we could go back way, way far back, but I think it really began like I'm so blessed. I was raised in like a wonderful home. I mean, typical, kind of typical, two parents. I was very lucky. I grew up with a foundation in Jesus that was so, I think, was such a gift that got me through so much. I live up in, grew up all my whole life in Massachusetts in the suburbs. We went to church and we talked about Jesus. But we also followed, a lot of the ways of the world were part of our lifestyle, what to eat, was shaped by, my mom and, what she thought was healthy or good food at the time. Unbeknownst to her, I was, taught early on, you eat your good foods first and then you eat your other foods afterwards. Treats are, to be had only every now and then. And my parents wanted me very much to know that I was loved, and they always showed me that. But I grew up even as a young child, showing signs of anxiety and depression, lots of fears, lots of insecurities. And as a result, I think that my mom in particular really felt that it was important for me to, have self-esteem, to feel good about myself. She really wanted me to see how
Mm.
valuable I was. And though in her heart, I know she knows that her goal was to believe for me to believe that Jesus was, my teaching me that he was my savior and that um he loved me. She praised me so much on the external things. I had a
Mm.
lot of praise on from early on, just on how I looked, how I performed in my sports or how I did in school. And though it was always in a very positive way, I learned to feel that I wanted to continue gaining that praise and gaining
Mm.
that feeling. That kind of started a lifelong journey of, I think, me really seeking approval, really seeking a desire to be loved. And what I ended up doing was getting into a sport. I feel like that really was detrimental for me and my journey with insecurity. And I did gymnastics starting at a really young age and got into competitive gymnastics really early on. And as a result of that, I had a huge focus on my body. So when I was younger, it was fun. I loved it. I had a skill for it. I had a talent. We flipped around. It was fun. But growing up, I was always really aware of what I ate, of how I looked, having to wear this small little leotard. And then once my body started to change as I hit puberty, as girls change, and the small tiny little shape I was in started to get larger and the hips got bigger and the belly and the bottom and all those areas start to fill out. I just was like, oh no, 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 this can't
Mm.
happen. It was like, okay. And I immediately started restricting and going into ways that I could control that from my body from not changing basically and trying to keep it within what I thought it needed to be. And then just this concept of a judge staring at me,
Mm.
judging me. Like
Mm.
everything was about, are my toes pointed perfectly? Are my legs straight? Is this move? Every single tiny detail of me was constantly being judged. And I think that I just took that viewpoint on a larger scale my whole life,
Mm.
and really felt that I needed to win the approval of my parents, of my teachers, of my peers. And then with a kind of predisposition for anxiety and depression, I spent most of my younger days, like my young teenage days, just feeling so unworthy and unloved, so terrified. There's so much fear, so much insecurity. And my mother and her, desire and hopes of just building that confidence in me, would often make comments just like, they're jealous or,
Mm.
you're such a, you have such a kind heart and you do so well in school and you're so this, they just, you know, you always have, she used to say like, oh, some guy's always interested in you, and then that started getting me into thinking as I got older too about attention from men. So then it was
Mm.
like, well, if a guy's interested in me and that means that I'm valuable or worth something and it's
Mm.
worth being jealous for, then now it came to be about keeping my body in this way for a sport. Then it became keeping my body looking attractive to get the attention of men. And I also sort of started to give up almost on create cultivating friendships because I just felt like I never fit in with the girls. I always felt really less than. I was the subject of some bullying in high school, which was really, really hard for me too, as well. So there were a lot of days where I would sit or in the art room for lunch because I didn't have someone to sit with.
Mm.
And I would just do artwork and paint. And I'd pretend like I put this front on to pretend like it didn't bother me, that I
Mm.
chose to do that, that I wanted to be alone, that I
Mm.
was a loner, that I was different. And I went through many different phases of trying to create the identity that I wanted everyone else to see. So it was so much of me trying to put on what I thought I needed to show the world to protect myself. So I think that with this sort of between the eating and the depression, the anxiety in my younger years, it really took me down a dark road more with getting into alcohol and drugs. And so the food never seemed like a big deal to me. That was just normal. Like you have to restrict to stay thin. You have to
Mm.
not eat, you have to make sure you don't eat too much sugar. You have to restrict calories. You have to eat
Yeah.
healthy. We didn't have chips and we didn't have junk food in the house. And I remember those treat cereals would be like a special evening. I could have like a
Uh-huh.
treat cereal for dessert because like you can't have like cinnamon toast crunch for breakfast. Like that would be awful. And like that's so bad for your body and all that stuff. So that became I think the morality of food started in
Mm.
that time too. And then my journey with drugs and alcohol got really, really, really scary as I got a little bit older and went off to college and sort of it became easy and available. I started at a young age experimenting with it. And I always kept my grades up. I always, did was such a perfectionist and everything I did and said, if I just have everything look good on the outside, if I kept the straight A's, if I kept the sports up, if I kept all these things up, community service, and did all these things that if I just did all the right behaviors, that I would be lovable and that somebody would love me, or if I had a boyfriend, and eventually all those things will come crashing down and, the boyfriend will leave
Mm.
and test will go bad, or um, I will eat, you know, the wrong food. Um, and so my story really took a dark turn in my college years. And my idea of what I thought my life was going to look like really drastically changed from that of like, okay, I'm going to be a success. I'm going to, do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to get the job and I'm going to make the money and I'm going to find a great husband and I'm going to have, the two kids or, what do they say? Like the 1.5 kids,
Mm.
2.5 kids and the white picket fence and all those things. And it was just, I was so caught up in what I believed I needed to do. And all along my journey, it's so hard because it's like, it's just so, there's so much that happens in our lives. The one kind of repeating thing was always Jesus. Like, he was always
Mm.
there. I was just never good enough for him.
Mm.
There was so much shame and guilt. There was so
Mm.
much fear. And there was so much, like I just never felt worthy. And I did not understand the real true love of Jesus. Like I
Yeah.
knew that he loved me. I understood the cross, or so I thought,
Mm.
he died for my sins. But it was always like I would go back to him with sort of like a begging and a pleading and an apologizing. And I'm so sorry I failed you again. And oh Lord, please help me. And what am I doing wrong? Um and there were periods of time. I think, there's so many periods of time where I hit such dark places in my life where I know without a shadow of a doubt that it was God in those moments. And so after college, my my life took a radical, drastic turn, and I knew, my family intervened, and we knew that I needed help. And I went in to start my recovery. And by the time I was 24, I had gone in and out of two different rehabs, and I got myself sober. I shouldn't say gotten myself sober because I that was by the grace of God, but I had gone through programs and um, I had fallen on my knees in surrender on so many occasions, and I think it was really, in that point that my relationship with my Savior really deepened, where I
Mm.
really started to understand um, how much he loved me. And I started to look back on all the times that he was there for me in some of those deepest, darkest moments of such pain and such sadness. And when I started to just sort of get back on my feet, and I felt like I almost had to start my life over. It was like a
Mm,
whole new beginning, and I felt like a little girl again, just sort of
mm,
learning how to live life. Like I had no
mm,
coping. I had no way to cope um with any of the hardships in life. I really didn't understand um that it was okay to not be okay, that it was okay to
mm.
not feel okay all the time, that it was okay to not be happy all the time. I
Yeah.
didn't know um I really thought that like life was supposed to be this happy, comfortable thing all the time. And if it
Mm,
wasn't, I was doing something wrong and I had to find a way to
yeah.
fix it. Um and So I think in, my life, God brought in a wonderful, wonderful man into my life who and gave me the gift of two amazing, wonderful children. And then I just dove into marriage and motherhood um, and that was incredible. But around the time that my son was about to be born, we went through about the first 5 years of his life, like just the most extreme medical conditions with him. He was premature, 2 months early. Lived in the hospital the first month of his life. Was in and out of hospitals the first year of his life. Diagnosed with all sorts of different issues with his kidneys. Had surgery at a year old.
Mm,
And we got through it. God was so good during that time. Again, deepening my faith, deepening my walk with Him. And then we sort of were like, okay, yeah, all right, we're going to move on now, next stage. And in about 18 months, my son was diagnosed with retinoblastoma, which is an extremely rare cancer of the
mm,
eye. And at that time, um, that I feel like was really like there have been these points in my life where God really had showed up in some really dark places. And that was really one of them. But for the first time, this was something that I didn't blame myself for. Like, I didn't
mm,
cause this. And I actually struggled with that for a while. Like, we went into genetic testing because I thought, my first thought was, I did this. I
mm,
didn't, I couldn't even do this right, Lord. I couldn't even bring a
mm,
life into the world free. Like,
mm.
I must have eaten something wrong. I must have taken,
Yeah.
like, I didn't exercise. Like, it's insane the guilt and you know, and again, I'm going to use this word, and this is only from the grace that you've given me, Heather, is pride.
Mm,
Like I really, even though most of my life was at a point of um, feeling worthless and unlovable or not good enough, it was still always about me. It was like
yeah.
I was at the center of everything that was right or wrong or good or bad or awful. And and even when my son had the cancer, it was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, like God worked with me so much for me to understand like it wasn't genetics, it wasn't anything.
Mm,
It just happened.
yeah.
And we had many years of a struggle with that. And but God was good every part of the way. He brought his grace and his like I call them like God moments or God winks, where he would just make himself so obvious, like the
Mm,
doctors would just be in awe that like this procedure would work or this would
mm,
come. And that's I mean, I could talk to you for hours about that alone, but I bring that up because I feel like these were all parts that God had to like start working and softening my heart and pointing me
mm.
back towards him and start sort of I had to start dying a little bit to self through all these. And I didn't
Mm,
even realize that's what was happening. But
yeah.
there was something about my life that was turning less about me and more about him.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying to me, like, how could you get through that? And I said, after we got through it, and he's doing wonderful now, he's 11. He's great. He's been cancer free now since he was 5. Like, it's such a blessing. But I look back and I say, I wouldn't change a thing
Mm,
about what happened in my life with my alcoholism and drug addiction, with my son and what we went through with him, because it was in those extreme moments that I actually was able to fall on my knees
mm,
and say, I can't do this. Like I remember one night with my son when we weren't sure if he was going to make it. And I went outside under the stars in the middle of the night, and I think it was freezing out, and I had like a little nightgown on, and I was just shaking. And I just remember falling on my knees and saying, God, I cannot do this. Like, I don't know. My whole life has been about me trying to figure out what's right and what's best and how to do this. And, what do I have to do to make life work?
Mm.
And I remember the peace that came over me in that moment. Just like, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just knew that he was there. Like, he was there. And that was the shift. And so I think that really prepared me for down the road, in January when, after having my daughter, she's almost 8 now. So it was really like 8 years. After having my daughter, I had gained a ton of weight, bigger than I'd ever been. And I kind of always been able to manage it before that. Even with Eddie being born early, I think it spared me the 2 months of that last 2 months of weight gain. So I never really got to that. But I had no idea that my whole life I had been dieting. My whole life I had been restricting or doing some form of a diet. I mean, I did everything that was out there. I've tried everything. But it was really in those last 8 years, I would say, that it became very drastic because all the diets I had done didn't work.
Yeah.
They inevitably didn't work. And I couldn't go back to that because, well, that one didn't work. So it's like, check, check. And I was running out of things to do. I was just running out of everything. And so it really just got to the point I had tried everything I knew to do to the point where I was just simply not eating food anymore.
Yeah.
And still thinking I needed to lose weight and wondering why I couldn't lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's pause there for a second, Tara. Now, when you say you were trying not to eat food, I mean, I know your story. We've worked together for a while now. Would you have called yourself an anorexic last January?
Oh God, no. Not in a million
Yeah.
years. Never.
And
Never.
and now, as you look back with what you know about eating disorders and disordered eating and your story now, would you give yourself an eating disorder label now?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it feels good. It's just such a strange thing to say
Yeah.
that it actually feels good to be able to say it
Mm-hmm.
without shame or guilt,
Mm-hmm.
to accept it, to not
Yeah.
blame myself for it. Um, and to also understand
Yeah.
what all those years, what was happening.
Because you thought it was normal, right?
Oh my gosh,
You
I
just
thought it
didn't
was so
you didn't
normal.
think you were doing anything different than any other woman you knew, right?
I mean, even when it first started, I actually thought that it was like, I was like, I mean, I was so like proud of myself and
Mm,
like my discipline. I was so like, yes, God must be
yeah.
smiling down on me. Like, look at all that weight I've lost. Look at the discipline of my exercise and my eating. Um, I had people praising me all the time for it, which is, of course, I had, the whole world, everything I saw, everything I read, every person I spoke to, just further supported
Right.
that belief
Right.
that this was a good thing, this was a healthy thing.
Yeah.
And um, and as I went further down that journey, I really look back and I think there was never a time in those 8 years that I didn't think that I had to lose weight.
Mm,
Even when you get to the goal weight, it was maybe there's a little bit more.
right.
I could probably get down more, there. And it was so much of these cleanses that I started getting
Mm,
on, was for me, that started with a lot of like juice cleanses, detox,
mm,
like sugar detoxes. That really is what started a lot. I mean, I remember going back even, my younger days and doing, at one point I had done 14 days, or I think it was, of like the lemonade cleanse.
uh-huh. Yeah, with the maple
Oh,
syrup,
oh
the
yeah.
lemon
Oh
juice
yeah.
with a little bit of maple syrup. Yep. You have to drink the
And
two
then you
gallons or
do
whatever. Yes.
the 2 liters of the
Yep.
salt water, and then
Oh.
you can't leave your house for like hours. So I'd be up at 4 a.m. before work to do that.
Yeah.
And fully, I read the book. I believed everything. This was, I think it was a doctor. I
Mm-hmm.
thought he was a
Yeah.
doctor. I
Yeah.
mean, so I believed it. All these cleanses. I did all these juice cleanses. I would spend hundreds of dollars on some of the ones, or I'd spend hundreds of dollars on organic produce to buy the ones for a juice cleanse for a week that, is supposed to clean your body out and everybody needs this. And like, I would do that. And then I would restrict, 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 restrict. I would eat such minimally. And then I would get to a point, whether it was a birthday party for my children or a family member or a wedding or whatever it was, and there'd be something there that was so enticing. And I'd say, I'll just have a little bit. And the next thing I know, I am just out of control. And so over time, I truly started to believe that this was my addiction coming back. So for me, this became synonymous with the addiction that I struggled with in my youth with the alcohol and drugs. It's like, I'm an addictive personality. Sugar is addictive. I read articles that were, showing, about how the brain reacts the same way to, a cookie as it does to, cocaine or heroin. And then it's like, well, they don't tell you. And I love like learning from you that it does the same thing when you get a hug.
Yeah.
Or when, there's just so much I've learned, and it's just so overwhelming that in those moments, I would have bet my life on it. If you had said, like, I would have staked my life on it, that I was living in God's will, that I was doing what He wanted me to do, to steward my body for Him, to be healthy for Him. And I think at some point, as my journey with my Savior progressed, it sort of shifted what started off as just like this health journey and sort of a little bit of a penance I felt that I needed to sort of pay back for the abuse I had put my body through when I was younger. So getting healthy was like, you owe this. You owe this to God for the body He gave you. You have to get your body healthy. You abused it. There was a shame and a guilt and sort of this penance I felt I had to pay. But then as I got further along in this journey with Jesus, I started thinking, okay, well, God, like, I started doing all those scriptures. Your body's a temple. I just took everything. I really and truly and honestly believed that my suffering, I'm supposed to suffer with Christ, that my suffering was, you're an addict. You want to eat sugar. Shame on you. That's temptation. You need to fight it. You need to battle against these foods. You need to submit your body. You need to beat it with exercise. All those things really felt like that was like my cross to bear. Like I would write in my journal about stuff like that.
To spell it out for someone listening at home who's maybe never thought about this before, I think you're spot on. I don't think you're alone in the fact that many of us have been taught that our spiritual battle is the battle to keep our body a certain size, right? That temptation is what happens when you open the freezer, you have to like be strong and courageous against Oreos, right?
Yes.
It's an alternate religion. Like that is not what the Christian faith is, right? We are tempted to sin, not to eat something that tastes good. And so, someone listening today has probably never thought about it like that before, but I really appreciate you spelling that out because we need to start calling this out. Like, ladies, this is not our biggest battle. Our biggest battle is not whether or not we can wear the jeans we wore when we were 25. Like, there's serious stuff going on in the spiritual realm. And it's time that we stand up and see that God has made us overcomers and more than conquerors, not so that we can wear the size we want to wear. It's for something much greater, right? So I love that you shared all that. Now, so all of that was kind of like the context of where you're coming from, right? And then you and I had a call, I don't know, it's probably like March or April of last year. How did that look? Like what started to happen as we started to work together?
When I found you, it was like, I just knew. I was like, God put it in my heart. Like, this was big. Something was happening. I was definitely at a place where it wasn't working anymore. God had stirred in my heart that I just kept thinking like, Lord, I need more strength. I need more of your word. I need, to dig in deeper. I need to do more. And then when you brought the concept of idolatry into this, it literally blew my mind. Oh my gosh. It was so like, oh, it's such a gift. It's such a gift because like you had said, I literally thought idolatry was the melted jewelry and the little, like the golden calf, like, when Noah comes down in
Mm-hmm.
the old, like, I literally was like, yep, check, got that commandment all set. Never have to worry about that. And, I love God and I want to serve him. So, of course I don't idolize any. And it was just incredible. There is a brokenness
Mm-hmm.
to ourselves that I had to accept. Like, I always thought that the weakness was such a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's so like shameful. And no, it was like you helped me to see how we all have this sin inside of our hearts. We just come into this world with it.
Yeah.
And we have so much brokenness that we carry around. And we are so easily led astray. There's a harsh world out there. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of deceit. There's a lot of lies. And when I understood that I was putting all of my worth and value into what my body looked like it hit me so hard. Like I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really recognize that I really believed that if I didn't have this certain body type, that I had no value, that I wasn't worthy of love, that I wouldn't be good enough for
Yeah.
my husband, for my children, for the people around me, for God to be a servant of his. So when I started reading those books and realizing how deceived I was like, I need help. I
Mm-hmm.
need so much help because that was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know what to do. I literally had spent my whole life believing something and leading up to a certain way and thinking I was walking in God's path for me. And all of a sudden that like shattered.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the same time I was doing that journey with you, I also started realizing like something is wrong with the way that I'm eating. This isn't normal. Like God was showing me this is not okay. But I didn't know what to do. Like I was completely paralyzed and stuck. And at the same time, I was going through tremendous, tremendous physical issues. I was having years of GI pain. I had gone for every type of procedure and endoscope and biopsies, and and literally ended up being sent home with laxatives.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of what came from that, which is
Yeah.
the worst thing that could have, at the
Yeah.
time. And then on the physical side, because I was beating my body with exercise in fear of holding on to this, I was experiencing tremendous physical pain in all sorts of areas. So at this point, when I found you, I was trying to do this. I had heard about the intuitive eating.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned it was okay. This is great. This is wonderful, but I didn't understand, and I brought it as another plan. This is a plan I have to do, and I have to do it right,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to do it. And I tried to do it on my own, and it got pretty scary and pretty messy. And that's when I was like listening to your podcast, and I heard about your group coaching and the individual coaching. And I don't even, I think I just emailed you and I don't even remember what I said. I probably babbled, it makes sense. And I was just so overwhelmed. And I just wanted to like drive to your house and like knock on your door and just be like, help me. And I was so moved by everything that you shared and everything that you said had touched me so much and I connected with it so much. It was like every time I heard you speak, you were sitting next to me holding my hand and we
Mm-hmm.
were having like coffee together. And for the first time, I don't know, I just felt hopeful. I felt like, but I still wasn't ready. I still didn't know I had an eating disorder. That
Mm-hmm.
was so crazy. Like that took a while for me
Yeah.
to really work with you
Yeah.
and understand that.
I am a firm believer that until you figure out, I hate to say the word solve because that sounds so final, so like before and after picture, but
until you get a grip on the body image side of things, the food side of things isn't safe, right? Like you
Mm-mm.
can't, I mean, and that was how God was with me. Like God was very gracious to work with me on body image stuff. And that's why there's some language in Compared to Who that talks about like diet stuff, because God hadn't touched my food yet. Like he couldn't have. He had to start with helping me with my body image and identity in him, and make it safe for my body to be a different size before he could
Yeah.
ever talk to me about what I was doing with my food. So
The group coaching was just life changing. I mean, life changing. And I know that was so, I mean, that was God. I mean, I've never felt God as much as I have felt him. And not only with what you gave me and the resources you showed me and the books that I read through you and the scriptures that became like new to me. I saw them in a whole new way. The truth that you opened my eyes to. And then the other group, the group of women that I have been connected with, that I'm still on a daily basis. We literally hold each other up daily with encouragement and love as we walk through this life together and deal with,
yeah.
it started off as this journey with this body image, and it's just permeated every aspect of my life now because I realized how much that was really affecting every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was consumed by this.
Mm.
I walk in a freedom now that is so, oh, wow. I mean, unfathomable is really
Mm.
like all I can say because I remember so many days just praying to God, like, I don't know how, Lord, but I can't live like this anymore. I am such a prisoner. And that's really
Mm.
what it was. It was like, and now the freedom that I have, it's so different though, because I used to think freedom was ease and comfort. It's
Mm.
not. It's
Yeah.
not easy. And there are hard days still, and I still have to be vigilant. It's a daily surrender. But I have this like whole community now, from you to these beautiful women I met in your group, and then you connected me, with the intuitive eating for Christian women, and working with not I love non-diet dietitian, and like for the first time in my life, I feel like I have beautiful women and friendships in my life
Mm.
too that are there's an acceptance and a love. Oh, what I still marvel at every day is through the process of working with you to really, for the first time, I think, understand what it means to find my identity and my love in
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
and to seek him first, to seek his presence. And the prayer that I keep saying is more of him and less of me.
Yeah.
And the more I focus on him and the more I focus on what he can do through me. Even this morning, I was listening to a little Bible excerpt from First Peter, and it was talking about how women, you don't have to adorn yourselves. And I remember, reading that before and kind of missing the point that it was like, listen, it's not about what's on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we hear that, but it's like, it's what's coming out of our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first time, I'm living that and I'm feeling it. So, like, the
Yeah.
head and the heart have connected
Yeah.
where that never, ever, ever happened before. It was just like, God, I know, but I don't feel it.
Right.
I know it, but I don't feel it. It's coming together and it's connecting.
Yeah.
Um, I just so desperately want to share this gift. Like I'm so on fire with I'm just so on fire inside because when I think of how struggling and how much pain and how dark it got at times and towards the end, just falling on my knees and crying, and then God bringing me to that January day and where I am now,
Yeah.
um, and that it's not always easy, but I can be in a larger body. I have people who even say to me, like, what are you doing? Like you like how are you so peaceful? Like the world's going
Mm.
crazy. Like what's going on
Yeah.
with you? Like you just seem different.
Yeah.
Because my heart's different.
Yeah. And that's a huge testimony too, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so good. And you shared a little bit about this in the beginning of your journey too. But I feel like that shame element is so real for so many people, right? We feel the shame
Mm,
and we want to cover the shame. We're desperate to cover the shame. And we try to cover the shame through getting our outsides So they look like, oh, well, I don't have anything to be ashamed of. Like there's no shame here because look
Exactly.
at my body, look at my size, right? And I think
Exactly.
what you've discovered is, that pride, the body pride, the trying to fix everything ourselves is a form of pride. Even with what God taught you through your son's cancer, like you
Mm.
were not in control, and surrendering that to Jesus is what actually covers the shame in a way
Mm.
that's so much more filling and so much more beautiful than any of our efforts. And then, like, that's really where the freedom is having that shame covered. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to be ashamed anymore of whatever size you're wearing,
Yeah.
because you know the futility in trying to cover the shame with, oh, I'm going to just go on another plan and try to get the body.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So, but
Yeah.
Tara, when you signed up, okay, like, I just, for someone who's like considering either doing group coaching next year or, ready to sign up for individual coaching, like, were you a little nervous it wasn't going to work?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I was absolutely terrified. And to be honest, when I first started signing up, I was really hoping that you were going to tell me how to eat.
Mm,
I was like, okay, so maybe part of this body thing will be we'll talk about the hard stuff and I will, learn to to connect deeper with Jesus and learn my value through him. Um, and then Heather's going to help me figure out, um, like what my new like plan's going to look like for
yeah.
my life. Like
Yeah.
what the new, like it really, like it was so ingrained in me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I quickly realized that that was not how it works. And there is definitely like, the roller coaster of emotions are unbelievable. There's definitely, and I love how wonderful you were with us through this process of grieving. Like there's just a lot of grieving. There's a
Yeah.
grieving period. There's a grieving of like what I thought my life was going to look like, what I thought I was going to look like. Um, there's a feeling of just like powerlessness and
Mm,
confusion, and like I felt my whole life I've like planned and this and that, and now what?
yeah.
Like wait, I have to listen to myself and
Mm,
like I surrender and pray. I mean, it's really challenging because it's so opposite of everything that I'd ever done,
yeah.
and that's exactly why it worked.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
exactly why it works, because it wasn't the world's way, it wasn't my way,
Yeah.
it was God's way, and it's
Yeah.
what his path was. And I just couldn't do it on my own, because it's like, the definition of sanity, doing the same thing over and again,
Mm-hmm.
over and over again, expecting
Mm-hmm.
different results. Or like, I can't fix, I can't help work through some of these things with the same mind that's creating them.
Yeah.
So it was like, I just needed to like have those wow moments that God gave me through you and through the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. What about when you first met the girls? You call them the girls, so I'll call them the girls. They're all
Yeah, the
women.
girl.
but
Yeah.
but what, like, how was that the
Yeah.
first, because the first week of group, I mean, even your group, like, you're
Mm-hmm.
so tight now. Some of you actually got together
Mm-hmm.
in person and you live
Oh,
like in various
yes.
parts of the
Yes.
middle of the country and East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what
Yep.
was it like the first week or even 2 weeks? You're kind of like, oh, I don't, what was that like?
Oh my, to be honest, I was actually okay. So obviously, I'm terrified, like terrified of, what are they going to think I look like, and I was also like so upset. This is what's crazy. Like they didn't get to see me in my cute little body. They're only going to see me in
Mm,
my big body.
mm,
And I remember thinking like like they're not going to like me as like that's how crazy, that's how ingrained that mentality was. But I remember being nervous of what they would think, because, we're on Zoom and we can see each
yeah.
other. Nervous of what they would think I would look like, nervous of how like they would relate. Like, am I going to be crazy? Like, am I like am I the worst case ever? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
crazy, I'm severe, I'm out there. No one can be this bad, because that's
Right.
sometimes what we think with the thoughts that we have. Um, and I remember the first call feeling so nervous, and everybody was kind of quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get nervous, I talk. I talk a lot. But I do, and I feel like I remember, I think even after the first call, I think I might have even emailed you and said, "Oh gosh, I'm like so embarrassed. I feel like I said all the wrong things. I feel like I did all the right," and you're like, And you even said something comforting. You're like, yep, that's what happens after that. That's that sort of like we go back into ourselves and we think, go. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is not about me.
Yeah.
Right. And it was so wonderful though, because what I did take away from it was that we instantly were all like, oh, yes, we are all in this together. We are all feeling these things. We are all thinking these things. There was like this feeling of a shared brain, which was such a comfort. Like our experiences, and it may have different nuances to it, but the feelings and the thoughts that are center around this body image and the shame was so similar.
Yeah.
And that's where that bond came in. We were all experiencing it together. And there's such a gift in that and such a grace in that, that there's nothing we feel that we can't share about what we're thinking or feeling, because we have come to realize that we have all either been there or going through it. Or I cannot imagine how I could still live in the bondage and the prison that I was living in. It was so hard. And the freedom that I've gained in other areas of my life, like the fact that I can even eat food with enjoyment now, is such a gift. But the friendships I've made, the women I get to talk to, and the way that it's just filtrated into my life with my children and my husband, my family. I am just so grateful that God did not let my fear or my, embarrassment or whatever, the million voices in my head that always got the better of me, that I did not listen to them. And I just listened to the gut that said, just do something different. Yeah. Email Heather, just do it. Just put it out there. And it's like, he took care of the rest. He just really took care of the rest every step along the way. He is taking care of the rest.
Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this replay of Tara's story. Like we said, Tara is now one of our coaches. So if you're looking for more support and encouragement on your body image journey, reach out to Tara or I through improvebodyimage.com. Click the tab Work With Me. Also, we'll be starting a new 40-day journey this summer. It'll be in the afternoons for our international friends especially, so you can make it this time. But we'd love to have you join us for that. You can find more information at improvebodyimage.com. Thanks for listening today. I hope something today has helped you stop comparing and start living. The Compared To podcast is proud to be part of the Life Audio Podcast Network. For more great Christian podcasts, go to lifeaudio.com.